It's amazing, and we're not talking like undersized guys. We're talking about the two DTs to start. 166.5, 164.5. They're both 300 pounds.
Yep.
And then they got the outside slash linebacker slash D end.
Yep.
They just come. And it's amazing. And they're not overly productive.
Yeah.
But they're just good football players. And then all of a sudden they'll bring in two more guys, and they're making plays. And they'll bring two more guys in. They're making plays. Yeah. Nah, it's incredible. In LSU, their defense is off the charts too. It's excellent. And of course, they always have DBs, corners and safeties. But it's going to be a heck of a game. It's going to be smash mouth. Here we go. See what happens.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I mean, smash mouth. I mean, that's the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I mean, because that's my kind of football, and that's what I'm certainly going to be interested in seeing it. And you talked about, Scott. I mean, just the fact that how loaded Alabama is. I mean, I was looking at it. So last year there was 12 draft picks from Alabama. I mean, 12. I mean, it's incredible. And then at least one first-round pick every year out of Alabama since 2009.
They're gonna have more, just so you know, this year.
That's true. Yeah, so since 2009, here's the other thing. Since 2009, so that's what, 7 drafts. They've had 26 first-round picks during that time. I mean, that's obviously there's only 32 picks in the first round. There were 4 first-rounders last year, 4 first-rounders the year before that. I mean, when you said your numbers, and I'll throw in some names, I personally think that Quinn Williams, the defensive tackle you mentioned, more than that 6'4.5" range, he's going to be a first-round pick. Whenever he's only a redshirt sophomore, so whenever he decides to leave, but he's going to be a first-round pick. Raekwon Davis, the big one, the 6'7" or 6'6.5", 300-pounder, he's going to be a first-round, at least in my opinion, first-round pick. I like the tackle Jonah Williams. He's another first-round player on my board. Deontay Thompson, the free safety, I love. Isaiah Buggs, the other defensive lineman, I love. Mac Wilson, the inside linebacker. Anthony Jennings, that edge rusher you kind of mentioned, as well as Christian Miller. And there's just so many players in that team. And, oh, by the way, I think you could make the argument that Tua might be the best of the bunch of them just because of his accuracy. We'll see. He's only a true sophomore. But, this is a whole different type of Alabama team because they do have the quarterback.
He's a very good player. I don't want to comment on his abilities, but he's proven that has ability to be productive, no doubt about it.
Yeah, he is a good player. So, finally, at LSU, I so much respect for LSU. Now, their numbers, when you compare them to Alabama, when you compare anybody to Alabama in terms of NFL draft picks, that the LSU is going to look, smaller by comparison. So, I mentioned that last year Alabama had 12 picks. LSU had 7. Since 2009, Alabama's had 26 first-round picks. LSU has had 10. There were 3 first-round picks in 2017, but none in 3 of the last 4 years. But all of that said, I see Greedy Williams, the corner on the outside, who I think is a first-round pick. Devin White, the inside linebacker, who, inside linebackers the first round is a little bit more hit and miss, but I think he's a Butkus Award contender at least. And Rashard Lawrence, the defensive lineman at LSU, I think is another really good physical football player that really is kind of what LSU is all about. And then Grant Delpit, I mentioned a true sophomore earlier with Alabama and Tua. Grant Delpit, the safety at LSU, to me, he looks like another first-round guy from DBU, LSU. So, again, I think this sets up to be a terrific matchup. Do you have any thoughts on this game, or is there any other of the big games this weekend, Scott, that you're particularly looking forward to?
Well, the thing about with LSU and Bama, it's like I said earlier, it's going to be a knockdown, drag out, and of course they don't like each other. Yeah. And they're both really good defenses, really good, LSU is a little scary because the offense, you don't know for sure what you're getting.
Yep.
With Bama, you know what you're getting. But, the thing I respect about it, and I love hard-nosed, tough people, and that's both defenses. They're going to get after each other bigger than life.
Yep.
Bigger than life. And it's going to be a heck of a game. Now who wins, I don't know. I don't worry about that. But it's going to be good football. It's going to be tough guys playing against tough guys, athletic guys playing against athletic guys. And it's going to be a knockdown, drag out.
Now, I would put you on the spot and say, do you have a winner? Do you have a score? But considering how successful you and I were with our World Series predictions, then maybe we should just leave that to Vegas and the experts.
Correct. I'm with you.
All right, and then one last game. I mentioned what a big weekend this was in college football, especially, and that's what I focus in on. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the big NFL matchup this weekend. That's the Saints and the Rams. And so, the Rams, of course, undefeated and everything is going well. They just did bring in Fowler, as we mentioned before. But the New Orleans Saints, a team that just every time I think that they are finished, they're not going to get any better, then they just play that much better. And last week, I tried to tip my cap to them, and then as I listened to it the second time, Scott, I realized I didn't even mention their prize rookie, Marcus Davenport, by name. I mentioned where he went to school. I mentioned the fact that I didn't like what their initial trade, but he really has performed well since, and the Saints feel like they're rolling. Is there anything about that game that you are particularly looking forward to with the Saints and the Rams?
Well, not individually.
Yeah.
But I know this. For multiple years of being in the NFL, never bet against Drew Brees.
Exactly.
Never. And Goff's been good. He's going to be a good player going forward. But Drew Brees is the reason why he's the first ballot Hall of Famer. The guy's a stud through and through.
No, I agree, and we talked about this before. I think that the Rams do have a little bit of an Achilles heel, and that's if you can run the ball right down their throat. And the Saints, ever since that they got Mark Ingram back, and we all know what a dynamic talent Alvin Kamara is, the Saints probably have the best 1-2 punch at running back of anybody in the NFL to go along with Drew Brees and that terrific offense and that playmaking defense. And so, it's interesting. I mentioned before there's going to be a lot of trick-or-treaters and all that kind of stuff out there. I don't know that there's going to be anybody more excited than the good folks in the state of Louisiana when the New Orleans Saints are going to be hosting the Rams and LSU is going to be hosting Alabama. It could be interesting.
It'll be a good weekend, that's for dang sure.
Exactly. Okay, that about wraps it up for this week on the ISP. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the Instinctive Scouting Podcast with Scott and I. This and prior episodes are always available for free and immediate download at NFLDraftScout.com. For two-time NFL General Manager Scot McCloughan, this is Rob Rang, signing off on the ISP. Catch you next week.